Hi there, Mike Schopp, Adam Krautwurst, October 23rd, 2024. I'm celebrating my 20th wedding anniversary the way men do, talking fantasy football on a podcast with Adam Krautwurst because my wife is in Washington, D.C. on a work trip. We'll talk about week 8 coming up in fantasy football. We're almost halfway through the season. There's so much turmoil, but maybe we can help. We'll look at a dynasty team we share that might be interesting. We'll sort of revel in the draft we did, the rookie draft, because you kind of have to do that once in a while, or else you want to just quit the game and find, maybe botany or knitting as a different hobby, because there are some, or falconing, there are some excruciating beats in this realm. Mike and Adam, powered by the Player Profiler Network. Thanks for watching and listening. This is The Deep End.
Oh, there he is. Little Mike. It's like little Penny. If you only had a voice or something.
Oh, wow. Hello. Welcome to The Deep End. My wife's away at her 20th anniversary. How are you?
It's Tyra Banks, fool. Listen, I have just come to I've gotten a lot better this year at I have my meltdown usually around like week 3 or 4, like whenever the injuries first start to hit, or week 1. And then by this time I'm just like numb to it. Like I'm just like, oh, and Chris Godwin is like my most owned. Mm-hmm. He's like a superstar on my portfolio this year. Top 3 receiver. It's funny, we all have our buddies that we play with. We're all in our own group chats and texts and threads. And one of the guys in my portfolio of teams is like, well, first thing he says is, well, we do have a lot of K. Dalton. I'm like, you know what? Thank you, Sam, for looking at the silver lining that we have a lot of K. Dalton, because losing 27% Chris Godwin is pretty horrible with 30 seconds left to play. What is your take on that? Listen, I'm a fantasy guy. I can't beg for my guys to be out there scoring garbage time points and then be upset when they rip the ankle from the bone at the end of the game.
No, I agree. I'd have a tough time criticizing Tampa Bay. The idea is you keep going. I'm more upset with Tampa Bay recovering the onside kick because that cost me so big in a tournament known as the Big Eliminator, where I thought I had an insurmountable lead, but there was a team with Derrick Henry, Godwin, and K. Dalton that was started to become pretty threatening. And at least I had Ladd McConkey in the other game. And it just became one of those nights. And, you talk about how maybe you become sort of more mature about it, a little bit more mellow about it, right or wrong. And really, like, by this afternoon, almost 48 hours later, I was thinking, like, you know what? I was due for one of these. But that was one where on Underdog, to get to week 8 meant you broke even. And I had a very exciting team. Daniels, Drake May, Jefferson, guys that maybe other people didn't have. Javonte Williams. I don't know. I was naive, I guess. I thought I was all set. But I ran up against that team and went home. And, we remember losses like that forever.
That's right. And that's one of the reasons why I don't look. Obviously, you have to look on the final night, but I just can't imagine knowing – what teams I'm so many leagues, so many teams. Monday morning, I look at everything and I kind of plan it all out, the games that are close and stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's super. I had one where I was a team that was big behind coming back, and I needed a couple points at the end and couldn't quite get there. But yeah, sweating those out, it's excruciating. We're not playing for a little amount of money in these. And so the mental health and it's silly to think about, but it's like when you play for the amount of money that you and I play for, and a lot of others like us, especially people that listen to the show, it can be a roller coaster of I had 2 great weeks in a row riding high. And then this week, actually wasn't this week, the fantasy results weren't even that bad. It was just losing players that your teams are built around. It's a DFS mindset too, man. A lot of those guys in DFS, they post, which they should, they post their big wins, right? 70K, Drew Dinkmeyer hit for maybe 150K for establish the run over the weekend, and Levitan and all those guys are always posting their wins, which they absolutely should. But what you don't see behind the scenes is the 2, 3, 4 weeks where they're taking losses, big losses, and from injured players, you're losing guys. I mean, man, I've been playing this. I'm 40. I've been playing this for 30 years. I still can't get over the fact that it's just so many zeros. I mean, the injuries, I get it, but more than ever, I feel like the zeros are just a thing. And I remember talking about it last year with John Scuderi, who's part of the Deep End Invitational, former FFPC main event champ. He started
Deep Invitational winner.
Deep End Invitational winner. That's right. Shout out to Johnny. He had Gabe Davis last year. He's like, dude, Gabe Davis has 4 zeros through 10 weeks. He's like, oh, how does it, Tank Dell 0. It's just guys that play all game on good offenses have more zeros now than Devonta Smith, 0.8.
Devonta Smith, right.
I had a team that I had a 3K, Mike, that lost. I had a 0 from Tank Dell and a 0.8 from Devonta Smith, and it lost a close one. It's so it's that type of mental stuff that wears you down. What's the great process, and can I have gotten off of those guys? And it's tough. The bad beats really suck. But hopefully at the end of the year, you got 1 or 2 teams that can keep you alive.
Well, adding to that pain is sort of the process in our drafts this year where, I don't know, how far apart were Devonta Smith and Derrick Henry going in drafts? Or even, Nico Collins would have been earlier, but how much
They were
earlier?
all third-round picks. They were all third, early fourth for Devonta, maybe.
Yeah. And then you have Barkley at the 1-2 turn. You have Jacobs and Mixon, and it's their year. It's old running backs' year so far. And that's part of it. There have been so many tough wide receiver injuries, Puka, and then Kupp. So many of these guys. Now is Garrett Wilson sort of capped with Devontae Adams and any of this? I mean, the trade stuff is more predictable than injuries, except for age. But apart from McCaffrey, your older running backs are killing it. And who wanted to do that? We made fun of those people. So it's the year of the mojo, right? I mean, the whole bit with the Sizzler.
The Sizzler.
If we call up the Deep End Invitational standings through week 7, our friend Darren Armani, Fantasy Mojo, is looking great in 6th. I've never seen anyone do better.
Mojo, the old RB hero. I don't even know who he has on that team, but I know he's got Chris Godwin. That's for sure. That's a tough one.
Yeah. How'd you find that out? That's right. There it is. That's right.
You're in first place, holding on, and it sucks to lose Godwin, but at least silver lining, the guys around you have a lot of Godwin, as most top teams will. I was thrilled today to go on. I have a 7-0 Fantasy Pros team, Mike. That's awesome. And I'm like, I'm going to go on this thing and find Chris Godwin. I didn't find any of the guys that got hurt. I'm like, beautiful. Thank God. But a lot of the top teams, you'll find your Chris Godwins and probably not your Brandon Ayuk's. At least you don't have to, worrying about getting his 8 points every week now. But you're a big Bucks team, yes, or Falcons on this.
Falcons
in this tournament. Falcons, yep.
I mean, Prescott, Lamb. I drafted Andrews in the 4th round, which looked bad for a while, and now looks better, but still not running all the routes or anything. But so far, so good on that. Godwin more in the middle. Jordan Mason, Ray McLeod, Jalen Naylor, sort of the scraps at the end. You gotta have the injury luck. With all due respect to the people that win, I finished 2nd in this. So did you?
Yes, finished 2nd last year. Maybe
to Chad.
Yeah. Oh, it's 2 years ago to Chad. That's right. Yeah.
You really do just have to run pure, even if it's only a 48-team tournament, and that's really hard. I mean, ask Alan Soslowski of RotoWire in 10th place what he would say about that, because the column on the right, if you're watching, are the players these top 10 teams have lost for the year, and he's at 4 already. In Deshaun Watson, okay. Hollywood Brown never got off the ground. Rashee Rice, same team. And then Rashid Shaheed, who was a beautiful best ball idea, all summer. That is how it goes. That's what we sign up for. It's just there are these moments when it becomes really depressing, and you're like, can I just buy Apple stock or Bitcoin or just even these treasury bonds? And why do I do this instead?
I know.
And, it's for the friendship, and it's for the thrill, the drafts, and then you sort of have to accept whatever you get, good and bad, here once the season gets rolling. But this year through 7 weeks has been cruel to wide receivers. AJ Brown missed weeks, like even the guys that don't look as bad in retrospect. Ayuk is done. Godwin is done. Evans is half done. And that's just sort of the beginning. McCaffrey, in terms of the running backs, is not done, but has not started yet. And just quickly on him, do you want to try to trade for him? Like, is it worth it? What do you think McCaffrey's value is right now? Redraft or any format?
Oh, that's a good question. What his value is. I don't want to trade for him unless I can really. You're not going to be able to buy low because guys have been waiting for him all year, right? So, my son was just wanted to trade Jordan Mason to somebody. I'm like, you know what? You might want to hold on to Mason just in case. I mean, it's both Achilles with CMC. He's older. I mean, he could come out, be terrible, and they shut him down. Right? Or not be terrible, but like be in pain, and they just shut him down for the rest of the year. I'd say that's almost a 50-50 chance, to be honest with you. And I have no inside information. I know nothing. I just maybe he plays a week or two. It's not feeling right, and they shut him down because they're a really talented roster that's going to contend again next season. So, and then Mason becomes a thing for the rest of the year. But no, I don't think I'm trying to trade for him unless I can get him super cheap, and no one's really going to give him away cheap because they've been waiting on him. I don't know, Mike. What are your thoughts on CMC? I like now on the flip of the coin, the silver lining is I like finding teams where I'm still in contention that I've got him on the bench. Like, oh, I've lasted this long, especially in tournaments, right? Because his advance rate's going to suck because he hasn't played. So if you can sneak a team in with Christian McCaffrey and he is healthy and comes back and plays, then you're locked and loaded.
It's so much more pliable in fantasy and dynasty because right now, again, in sort of a dynasty context, McCaffrey for Christian Kirk is what, somebody that the receiver on a bad team. Well, that's not the fantasy football point. In a certain parallel existence of the actual NFL, there could be trades like that where, McCaffrey is kind of older, a younger receiver. We've had receiver injuries, San Francisco, just even if it's a contending team, there are all kinds of different ways. That's what we're all trying to do in these drafts is find that fit. And then you find out maybe that the other person doesn't really see it the same way. I mean, McCaffrey, if you have him and you made it to October 23rd, my 20th anniversary, you're not letting go. Like you're just sort of going to try to get to week 10 and see what it looks like. And then we're all playing in the best ball stuff. And even in, main event, et cetera, for those 15, 16, 17 weeks. And it could be that Christian McCaffrey is a home run at that point because they've waited. They're in the division hunt. I mean, Seattle's in first place. Arizona is right there. Arizona beat them. Like they have to dig in. So I wouldn't expect to be able to get McCaffrey unless like it's a home league and somebody's 3-4 and they're out of time, which is possible. That will be out there.
I'm just going to say this. Arizona sucks. I just want to throw that. Just watching that makes me upset. But anyways, it just we'll probably get into that later. We're talking about rookie receivers.
We can get into that right now.
Okay.
I needed McConkey. I mean, the Los Angeles Chargers in the year 2024 think what we should do on 2nd and 1 in the fourth quarter with Justin Herbert as our quarterback is run up the middle 3 times.
3 times.
Like that in the 80s, that was stupid.
Yeah, I'm talking. I got buddies at my house watching the game. They're like, "Oh yeah, well you got it. They're bigger. They're old line." Like guys, it's just. And then I go off the deep. I go off the deep end. No pun intended. I'm like, well, the same stuff crap that we always talk about. Yeah, let's put 22 dudes within a 5-yard space and see if I can not kill myself and run forward. Like, I don't even mind the quarterback sneak. Spread them out, though. Put guys as far away from the quarterback as possible. And then try to – it's Harbaugh. I'm not even mad at the Chargers. The Chargers are injured, and they don't have a lot of weapons to begin with, and this, that. The Cardinals are the other one where, like, can Kyler not see Harrison? Is the offensive coordinator not know what he's doing. I mean, Harrison's just running 5-yard hitches. And it's funny. I don't know if it was a talking point. They were, hey, before the show, like Orlovsky and what was the other commentator? You love him. He's one of your
Louis Riddick.
Louis Riddick. By the way, I was listening for football team. I didn't really hear it much, but anyways.
Wow. He heard us. He listens to our show. He knows not to say it anymore.
He listens. He heard you. But it was like all game. And they came into the game, like first play, like, all right, they got to get Marvin Harrison the football. They got to get Marvin Harrison the football. And they just all game. That's all we're talking about. Orlovsky's like, he's in the slot, a linebacker on him, runs a slant route. Like he's your first read here. And Kyler didn't even think about it. And it's like, that's scary. That's scary to me. Like people want to compare Neighbors and they want to, Neighbors are so much better. Thomas is so much better. The rookie for Jacksonville, Brian Thomas. But like, or is it just Kyler, or is it just the offense? Because I want to say by the end of the game, he looked disinterested, even on the block. Like at the end of the game, they're trying to get in field goal range and he's downfield blocking, like jogging, and doesn't even look like he cares to get involved. But it could just be me reading into it. But it's just frustrating, man, to see them just like wasting him.
It's rough. And that's even like the Bills are lucky in week 1 they didn't have that right, because that was probably Arizona's game if they knew what to do with Harrison,
right?
Even in the first game of his career. Hayden Winks of Underdog really good on Harrison today, how he's not separating. They're not getting anything out of his go routes. He's doing that too, and it's just adding up to nothing. But, they're a team in the middle right now, and with the investment in Murray, second year for the coach, that's probably a team that will want to get there this year if that needs to be said. We will look at a dynasty draft of ours in a moment that ended up being one where we could not get Marvin Harrison Jr. Before we stop for that, let's take a moment to listen to and watch a word from our sponsor.
Hey, I know it's a popular statistic to cite, these underdog pick'ems, the vast majority of people go more than on any given player. Yeah, close to 80% of people, but that's because it's easier to find the shootouts than it is to find the dud games every Sunday afternoon. Like we knew week 5, Ravens-Bengals was going to be a shootout. And there goes Lamar Jackson for 4 touchdowns. There goes Joe Burrow for 5 touchdowns. Derrick Henry gets there. Zay Flowers is over 100 yards. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins both got there, as well as Chase Brown. Both Chases got there. You go more than. You 100x your payout on Underdog with their Pick 6 contest. But then you look at Dolphins Patriots, that's going down the toilet, right? Too bad Ramondre Stevenson had 18 fantasy points. But you improve your chances at positive returns when you correlate with these Underdog pick'ems. Use promo code Underworld. This is the biggest bonus Underdog has ever given out, up to $125. Promo code is Underworld. Put in $250, you get $125. Now go start picking.
Welcome back to the Deep End, Mike and Adam. So we did this FFPC Dynasty draft. This is year 2 of this league. We did not cash in year 1. A little bit with the future in mind. We kind of middled it. Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson in the first round, our startup picks, and then we'll try to figure it out. Let's take a look at the second-year rookie draft. The names have been hidden to protect the innocent. And our picks are highlighted. I sent this to Adam yesterday for his perusal, and you gave me something that I didn't need to hear. What was it? Like something we got wrong? Oh, I know. It was between Daniels and May. Let's take a look. Look at it and tell me what we think.
Yeah. So I was big on Daniels going in this year. And May was your guy, and May's looked great so far. Great. I mean, I think he's looked great.
Daniels has looked great, though.
Daniels has looked great. May's looked good considering.
Right.
And so I asked, would you? So we had 3 picks in the first 7, and I said, would you have rather had Bowers and I think what was it? Bowers and Adunze, or no, sorry, Daniels and Bowers, or a Dunze in May, or something to that effect. It was a 2v2.
Yeah.
And I don't think we wanted to compare that, because I think we're happy with the way that it went. Neighbors, Bowers, and May, 3 of the first 7 picks. I mean, I think we hit on all of them.
Yeah, me too. These FFPC dynasty formats, again, it's really smart how they do it. Like the bad teams still have to win in the consolation bracket to get to the top picks. So we did well to add 2 first-round picks. However we did it, I don't remember yet.
Yeah.
But this team went to the consolation semifinals, and so did another team whose pick we had.
Yeah.
And they both lost.
Yeah.
So you can look at 4 through 7. I'd look at 1 and 2 and ask you what we do differently if our teams had won those games and we had the first pick and the second pick, or even like 1 and 3 or 1 and 4. Were we not picking Harrison and Caleb Williams?
I think we probably were. I mean, yes. And I'm happy that it didn't turn out that way. Now, again, I like Caleb Williams, and I think he's coming around. I think he's getting better. His fantasy stats, at least, have shown that. But, I mean, right now, I bet you if you had Marvin Harrison, you couldn't trade him for Malik Neighbors. I can almost promise you that.
Right.
So we won there. And Bowers, I think the play for Bowers was like, okay, the guy's a generational talent, like all time. And it's just like we got to take him there. And I remember like that was a decision. We both had agreed on Neighbors. It's like, do we go Bowers or do we take one of these quarterbacks, Daniels or May? And I think we figured out like, no, I think we're going to get one of them at the 7th spot. And I'm, obviously would have much rather had Daniels. But man, you couldn't have asked for 3 of a better, because at Dunze right now, what do you got there? Again, I think he's been fine. It's a crowded receiving core. He's a rookie. Generally, you expect them to kind of pop even in year 2, but at least the second half of year 1. So no, I like the way that this has turned out. I was excited to see what he had. And I think for the most part, he has a horrific offensive line. But other than that, he's looked great, throwing with anticipation. He's getting Hunter Henry the ball, which I love. And that's just the first round. We hit a couple other doubles here.
Yeah, I would say this is of course tight end premium on FFPC, and to get Bowers, I mean, who's tight end too? Was it Ben Sinnott, who we drafted in the 3rd round and then traded? Right. So like we have Kincaid on this team as well, but it's almost like quarterback in Superflex where you can't be too rich.
Right.
And so Bowers, I remember one Dynasty rookie draft I was in, and the team had Pitts and Ferguson, and I was up and like the play was Bowers, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this? Like, what if he isn't good for 2 years? What if he's Kyle Pitts?
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, I would say fortunately I did take him, and you figure out the rest later. I mean, just go get who you think are the best guys, or who the consensus thinks are the best guys, and that works for you. And then you figure out the team build. Never draft for need, right? So it was part of that calculus, in the middle there was what the other teams, we're not showing their names, but what the other teams needed in that spot. And that helped us, I remember that from that discussion, figure out what to do. So later picks, I mean, Dontavian Wicks at 312 was fun. Like, we're at the point in these FFPC dynasty drafts where, again, a credit to the format, you get to veterans. He probably wasn't the first veteran taken by then. I mean, end of 3rd, if not like earlier than that. And then Vidal and Drew Lock, okay. But that was just sort of a possible that Daniel Jones is hurt and doesn't start the season. Coleman is interesting. Let's talk about Coleman at pick 15 in this draft. That would have been wide receiver 6. And this is an Allen team. Do you think we got that right?
Yeah. I mean, we took him over Pearsall, fine. We took him over Leggett, Adonai Mitchell. We didn't want a running back. Yeah. I mean, I think he's looked kind of what I expected, maybe a little bit better. I mean, I thought he'd be more of a red zone threat and less of a run after catch or less of a deep ball guy. He hasn't really popped in the deep ball yet, but he's been a run after catch, freak. Honestly, he's got 3 long catch and runs. If he doesn't stumble out of the block Sunday, he has another touchdown on those. So, and I think it'll be good for him to work behind an Amari Cooper, learn from a professional, learn from a guy that's a route runner. So I really think that'll help him. And it was cool to see, for the people who aren't Bills, Western New York guys like us, it was cool to see like Allen audibles at the line on Sunday and Cooper, Cooper looking to learn from, Keenan Coleman. Like, hey, what, is this the play? Is this what we're supposed to do? And Coleman confirms it, and then Cooper scores on that play. So that was really cool to see. But I've been satisfied with Keon Coleman so far.
Yeah, real life, yes. Fantasy wise, I mean, he's a tough start. I think Cooper caps Coleman. It wasn't much anyway. Wide receiver 7 in this draft, and as we were talking before about when do veterans go in this format, 301 is Shakir. Who would you rather have in Dynasty right now, or in any format, Coleman or Shakir?
That's a great question. I mean, probably Coleman, but not by much. I think Shakir was a great pick. And I'm just comparing Coleman too to like the guys like Coleman is a tough start. I completely agree, but Pearsall hasn't played, although Pearsall is a great guy to have now. Waiver, waiver wire Wednesday. If he's out there. I'd rather have Coleman than Leggett for this year. Adonai Mitchell, Burton, kind of all the guys that went behind him. Corley's, not involved at all. Troy Fenton's coming on a little bit, but yeah, I'm fine with the way things have gone as far as Coleman as a fantasy asset where we took him.
Well, that's a fun one. We have a chance to win there. We will keep you posted because that way you'll know.
Yeah, and I think so. Now that I'm looking at it, I think the question was real quick before we move on. Would you rather have Jaden Daniels and Rome Odunze or Bowers and May?
In this, easily Bowers and May.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, probably because Bowers is going to be like an all-time tight end, I think. But Daniels is really, really good at super flex. But he's small. He's probably injury riddled because he is so small. I mean, he's already is he playing this week? I don't even think we even know yet. But I think,
maybe not. Maybe not.
If May is average, if May is Kirk Cousins, then yes, Bowers and May for sure.
Yeah, like it's the tight end premium,
right?
Thing. Like,
I mean, where's he going to go? This is a Mike Schopp question. Where does he go in redraft next year in round 1?
Bowers like in main event?
Yeah.
He's probably tight end 1.
Yes, right. He's a top 10 pick.
If the Raiders bottom out, which they have been forgetting to do for like 20 years because they can't get online, like maybe they have a great quarterback and it looks up for Bowers. I mean, they're still nowhere at that position, and look what's happening. So, I mean, in tight end premium, some of your favorite guys are aging out. Of course, right. Kelsey, but Andrews or Engram, some of these guys are. And your others, Laporta, your other darlings, Laporta, Kincaid, not so much McBride, but Pitts sort of are kind of mid. So Bowers he's in this format, he's one of the most valuable assets at any position there is.
Agreed. Yeah.
And so is Daniels. I mean, this is super flex, and so is Daniels, in fairness. But Odunze, not worried, but not there yet. May, okay, not there yet, but okay. Bowers is the one I want. I mean, I've had people in these dynasty leagues just sort of what people tend to do is like they send an offer of their 7th round pick for yours, and then they just write in the comment section like, hey, just wanted to start a conversation about Brock Bowers. Like, nope.
Nope. I would like to end that conversation.
No,
I would tell people too, they're never going to be on national television. They're never going to have these primetime games. They play on the West Coast, so they're later on. Go watch Brock Bowers play, because next year you're like, man, I've picked 7. Do I really want to take Brock Bowers? And you're going to think like, well, I can't even think of any plays that Brock Bowers had. Like, what does he even look like? How does he play? Because you don't get to watch him. Go watch like extended or shortened games. He's exactly as advertised. He's going to be worth, a top 10 pick in redraft next year in tight end premium for sure. But people might be scared off by the Laporta thing too. Rookie year, historical rookie year, then comes out with a great offense and is just not involved whatsoever.
Well, I would say about Bowers, with Adams gone and, Minshew back is maybe better, but like that's the guy we're almost halfway through the NFL season. That's the guy you scheme for if you're a defensive coordinator at this point, or else it's what? Alexander Madison or Jacoby Myers? Like Bowers is the guy you want to take away. So it probably does get harder for him, I think, this year. But, I really wouldn't worry too much about that. Laporta, the question, he ran super hot last year, touchdowns and just sort of the opening that there was with the Lions. And this year it's been a little bit more cluttered with Jamison Williams and not getting that same run out when it comes to touchdowns. And what you're getting instead is one catch a week, which is definitely not what we bought in for. So the big news in the NFL today, as we record on Wednesday, my 20th anniversary, October 23rd, DeAndre Hopkins traded to Kansas City. Good for the Chiefs, good for Hopkins. How good for Hopkins? What does this mean to you if you are in a league where he's available? Maybe you have him. How does Hopkins compare with Xavier Worthy at this point, rest of the season?
Yeah, I would take Hopkins over Worthy. Worthy's just, we've seen this before, man. It's Sky Moore, it's Kadarius Toney, everyone's excited about the speed, and for whatever reason, Andy Reid doesn't like him, and Patrick Mahomes doesn't like him, and they can get everyone else involved except for they can get Watson involved. They can get the backup tight end involved. They can get whoever they want involved except for a lot of these speed guys. Like they're looking for Tyreek Hill, and I guess he doesn't exist in these other guys. So I'm definitely Hopkins. Now, I will say everyone's talking about I guess it's more of a football point, an NFL, point. Like, oh, Hopkins, the Chiefs, the rich get rich. It's like, he's not better than Rashee Rice. Like, it's not like they're better than they would have been if Rashee Rice was there. So that doesn't make me nervous. From a fantasy perspective, though, I'm excited to see him on my roster now because you couldn't cut him, but you couldn't start him. Now it's like, okay, he's got some upside. Maybe not week one. He'll probably play, but maybe you get like an Amari Cooper type week with the Bills. Like maybe he gets 4 or 5 catches and one of them's a touchdown. So, again, he's a 32-year-old receiver kind of playing with that knee injury. But a lot of these guys, man, he's sniffing a Super Bowl now. You're going to get the best DeAndre Hopkins you could possibly get for the rest of the year. I've seen people say, oh, he's a wide receiver 14, 15 rest of season. I don't think I'm that high on him, but I think he goes from you can't start him ever to being a wide receiver 3 or a really good flex option.
Yeah, I agree. Do you know their schedule, by the way?
I was just pulling it up. Yeah. So
I got it.
Okay. Yep.
Let me see if I can do it. They're 6-0.
They're 6-0.
At Vegas, diminished Tampa Bay Monday night next week, home to Denver, at Buffalo.
Yep.
Pretty good chance to go to Buffalo 9-0. Would you say that's better or worse than 50-50?
I think that's way better than 50-50.
Okay, 9-0 at Buffalo. Then Chargers, second meeting, Raiders, second meeting, maybe both. No. Carolina, actually, in front of those teams. Carolina at home. I remember that they're looking pretty good. Better or worse than 50-50 that Kansas City is 13-1.
And they aren't even good. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And then it's Houston, Pittsburgh, Denver to end it.
Cleveland, Houston, Pittsburgh.
Denver.
Oh, I'm looking at the fantasy stats. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
they don't have that week on there. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Cleveland is part of the 13-1 bet, and then it's Houston, Pittsburgh, Denver, 2 on the road.
So if you're looking at for fantasy too, they have a below average remaining schedule. They've got that Houston game will be a shootout. Pittsburgh will be really tough. Cleveland's an above average opponent. Tampa early on, but nothing kind of special here. Carolina, and to kind of ride that. Does this make Patrick Mahomes startable now? People are talking about cutting him. That type of thing. It's. Give me your take on Patrick Mahomes while I find the charger for my laptop.
Oh, okay. Well, he is tied for the league lead in interceptions. He threw for 150 some yards against San Francisco in a pretty easy win. And that's kind of the theme of the whole thing with Mahomes. So, it's daunting to sit him for the likes of Sam Darnold and Bo Nix in fantasy football, but I don't know. I don't want to play scared. The reason why, say you have a projection where it's not like 20 points, 20 points. It's more like 22-18 in favor of the other guy. The reason why you play Mahomes over the guy that's projected 10, 15% better is because you don't want to have to go to bed at night having benched Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, Knicks is a better start this week. Daniel Jones, if he plays, might be a better start this week. And this keeps happening, and I wouldn't be afraid of it, is all. We all remember the times where, in my case, you started Trey Lance over Tom Brady, and Brady threw for 6 touchdown passes against Miami. Like, those never leave you. But the wins happen too. And the wins happen because you know what to trust and how to play, and just move the letters around in their names. And it ends up being, here's 22 points, here's 18 points, I'm doing this. And if Mahomes ends up that 1 week throwing for 4 touchdowns, then he does, but you get him next week. I don't think I want to be afraid of that. Adam? Mute. Is Adam
sorry? I'm
there
here.
He is.
I'm here. What a disaster. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, Mahomes, you definitely don't want to bench because you don't want to be like, oh my God. But he hasn't been good for fantasy in like 2 years. So I think Hopkins is more of a help them win the Super Bowl than a help him get better stats. But if we get some rushing out of him too, that's what I keep betting these Mahomes over rushing. And 2 times he's been right there, and then freaking kneel downs have killed me. But yeah, I mean, I think if you have Mahomes, you love Hopkins being there. If you have Hopkins, you love that he's there. It's almost like found money when you lose all these injuries. It's like, well, I wasn't counting on Hopkins. Well, thank God. Like I can start. Maybe Hopkins can be 75% or 80% of a Chris Godwin, and I'm losing 3 fantasy points a game rather than all of it. So. Yeah, I think I like the Hopkins going there. And so what about any additions to the Titans? I know we're planning on talking about this, but I've got some Tyler Boyd little mini bids here for some of these teams. He looked good against the Bills. He had a bunch of catches in that game. Maybe they use him more.
It's a good name. There's nothing else there I'd want to do. Maybe Spears, who could have been dropped by a team last week because he was hurt. And Pollard is fine so far this year. It's going to probably be Mason Rudolph again in week 8 at Detroit. Boyd is a very sharp idea for this week, I think, because Ridley is hurt too, Adam.
Oh, is he? I didn't even see how bad. I mean, I wasn't even going to start him. I wouldn't even consider it. But now, yeah, Boyd might be nice for this week.
Yep.
So we'll see.
The Thursday night game is Minnesota at the Rams, and I can prove it.
There you go. You got the helmets. Oh, baby, an old school showdown.
I do a hit with Purple Insider every week. That's Matthew Collar's website. We focus on the Vikings, but we do a fantasy sort of themed conversation every week. He's headed out to LA right now for that game tomorrow. And I don't know, what do you see there? It sounds like Hockenson will play. What's your level of confidence in Hockenson, just sight unseen so far this year?
Yeah, I'd like to, if I got him, I'd like to start him. I mean, I'd like to hear some more about it before that. But, the turning position, we were losing our minds about it, which, rightfully so when the season started. But it's gotten a little bit better. Some guys are going to come out of, the Cole Kmets, the Tucker Crafts, the Kate Ottens. Like a lot of those guys have kind of come to replace. Goddard was awesome for a bit, and then he got hurt. But I mean, again, the studs still aren't there. Kittle and McBride have been fine, but you've got Kincaid, Kelsey hit and miss. Andrews kind of coming on here. Got 4 targets, 2 touchdowns. That's scary. But Laporta's dead. Yeah, but I think the middle of the pack guys, the Crafts, the Hunter Henrys, that type of thing. You're able to have some starters. So it'd be tough for me to start Hockenson over a Hunter Henry, depending on the matchups. I haven't really gotten there yet with the matchup, but it's like a Tucker Craft or Hunter Henry. I hate to keep rubbing it in with the Kate Otten thing, but with no receivers there, Otten could get 12 touches. But again, it's the Mahomes point. Like, God, do I want to bench Hockenson and he rolls out here with 12 catches for 80 yards? So Depends on where you're at. If you're behind, you might want to play Hockenson. It's Thursday, but if the projections have you being behind, and just cross your fingers.
I would almost definitely wait, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like I would not start Hockenson over Parkinson in that game.
Okay.
Komet, Fant. I mean,
Ferguson.
Jonnu could go to 0 with Tua back.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Hockenson, Ferguson easily. Ferguson's top 5 at San Francisco, I think. But Hockenson, I like him overall. I drafted him in best ball, hoping he'd be back like before the bye, and he is. So it's kind of exciting, but I don't need to start him this week when it's tight end and so many of these guys are the same. Hockenson or JT Sanders?
Hockenson, I think, for sure.
JT Sanders at Denver. Jatavion Sanders. So far, so good. I drafted a lot of him and, picked him up on waivers here recently.
There you go.
And Bryce Young is going back in, though, so it could all just fall apart.
It will all just fall
Last
apart.
week, my number one waivers pickup was Adam Thielen. IR, got cut a lot, wide receiver. And
yeah,
I guess he's not going to Kansas City now, but receiver trades have happened, and that's what Carolina should do if he's healthy, right?
Is he starting because of the car accident, or is he starting because they want him to start?
Who knows?
Ugh.
I don't know how you sprain your thumb in a car accident, but I guess like Bulldog was telling me, just hold the wheel. Like I never hold the wheel.
Yeah, I was just saying I sprained my shoulder in a car accident. I could see it.
How did that happen?
Just jammed it. Hit something and your shoulder jams. Can't you see?
That can happen to a thumb?
Yeah, maybe your hand slides under. I could see it.
Okay. Another person telling me not to overthink it. Before we go, thoughts on the rookie wide receiver landscape? Did we cover it with the Dynasty draft?
Yeah, we covered a lot of it there. I just wanted to I just thought that Brian Thomas is a guy that just is now like must start. I think he's borderline wide receiver 1. He looks awesome. Lawrence trusts him, and I'm just so pissed about Marvin Harrison. But I vented about him. I vented about him earlier. Neighbors will be fine, obviously, but I think that the Jaguars had a big one with him, and he's just taken over, right? Like Kirk doesn't even matter anymore. Gabe Davis had 1 game and dropped 2 touchdowns while scoring 2. But he's not a problem. I think it's literally Evan Ingram and Brian Thomas, and I think Lawrence is fine with that.
What about Pearsall for waivers?
Love Pearsall for waivers. If he's available, I'm glad this is going to post after waivers tonight. Thanks, so we can really talk about it.
Yeah.
If he's available, I'm going crazy for him. He comes back into a perfect situation. You've done for the year. Deebo Samuel dealing with some issues with a sickness. And so I think he comes back to a great offense, great situation. He's not available in a ton of leagues, but where he is, he's a guy that I'm willing to break the bank for, especially in leagues where I've got a Chris Godwin or an Ayuk or even like a Mike Evans. Like Evans is going to miss a month, right? Like this is crunch time. You can't be without him for a month. Who else was there? Shaheed, like a lot of guys who've lost recently. I think if you have any of those holes to fill, I think I'm going to go crazy on him in waivers.
Could you cut Evans? Old hamstring?
I don't think so. So.
You couldn't.
Want to give him to somebody else.
You couldn't.
I couldn't. Hall of Famer Mike Evans? Come on.
Depends on my record. If I'm losing, I might have to. If I'm winning, I'm holding on.
Yeah. I wonder if he would be locked if you dropped him.
Because he's Mike Evans?
Because he's Mike Evans.
Really?
I mean, if you're a 6-1 team and you got some bench stash space, I mean, that could be $1 million pickup right there.
When does that start? Week 11?
Well, the official locks are week 11. But if like someone week 3 drops like Brock Bowers, like they can reserve the right to lock him so that you can't pick him up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess don't drop him.
That's right.
Thanks for being with us tonight in the deep end, Mike and Adam, on Tuesdays normally, but here we are on a Wednesday as it happens. Follow me at Schopp Talk. You can also check me out at Purple Insider once a week and also WGR Sports Radio 550 in Buffalo, where I've been hosting afternoons there for 23 years.
Wow.
Adam, you've got a FFWC thing coming up, right?
Yeah, I go live here in a couple, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes there.
But that's in the past now.
That's right, in the past.
That's already happened.
An hour, 2 hours ago. Full-time fantasy. You can find me at Adam_Krautwurst on the X. Start sit article comes out tomorrow for week 8 and or week 9. What is it? Week 8?
8. Yeah.
And still grinding over here.
Plus flag football.
Ridgemont, the whole thing.
Ridgemont. How did we not do that once? This year's
It
terrible.
was 73 the last 3 days. Oh my God.
Next week it's supposed to be 70s again. Spoken like somebody living in Western New York, which is late October. Like, oh, it's gonna be warm.
You have my number. Come on.
I'm open to it. I like it.
I didn't realize
All
how hard it is to find golf ball. Real quick, golf balls with leaves all over the place. Oh my God. You better hit it right down the middle of the fairway, which I know you do, but right down the middle of the fairway, or that ball is good luck finding that thing.
I don't want to hear about the leaf rule. I don't want to hear about, what, just drop one anywhere. I'm not playing. I'm too old for that.
That's right.
Thanks for being with us. Please like and subscribe if you would. It takes no effort so that more people can find the show. We'll be back next week. Player Profiler Network, Mike and Adam. Thanks for being a part of the deep end tonight.
See you guys.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.